Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm probably one of the few people in Ireland to do my Leaving Cert 3 times. It makes me very useful in a table quiz because I've studied 4 Shakespearean plays, 4 classic English novels, history, chemistry, economics, etc. The reasons for that are probably back in my childhood, growing up in Dundalk, halfway between Dublin and Belfast, in a council estate, starting off life in a modest primary school. All my life I've been told, follow the line. Start an education in primary school, follow the line to secondary school, get a good education, get a good qualification, get a good job. Follow the line, you'll be fine. So as I finished up in primary school and I entered secondary school, I started to notice something was different. I've always had a problem absorbing large amounts of information. I've never really been able to read really big books. I'm a micro reader, and I can analyze very small amounts of information on hundreds of different platforms. It's very useful right now, but it was incredibly restrictive when I was growing up. Because we used to measure people in Ireland with big books going into big exams. And I very quickly found that I could not translate the information from those books into those exams. Now, Ireland back then was ruled by the church, the state, and the government, and they said, follow the line. So I reached a point where I started into my exams, and my first time around when I was doing my Leaving Cert, I was only 16, I was only a boy, doing my first exam, and I failed. And it was the first time in my life that I said to myself, something's not right here. I followed the line, I followed the procedures, I studied hard and it didn't work for me. I was studying to be a journalist at the time. I think I can put a few words together. I knew I could write a few words together, and I wanted to be inspirational. I have a strong sense of right and wrong, and I thought journalism was the path for me. So I decided to do it again. I decided to do the Leaving Cert the second time around, and I didn't get the points the second time around. I became somewhat of a ridicule in my peer group, and as everybody else moved on, I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Why couldn't I learn? I've since learned that I don't have so much as a learning difficulty, I just learn differently. And I suppose I've come up with coping mechanisms since then to now to be able to work things better for me so that it works out. I then got a lucky break. So I had done my Leaving Cert my 3rd time, and my headmaster in the school was amazed that I was even able to take my Leaving Cert 3 times. And at that point, I felt as if I was a complete failure in life. But I started to stop following the line. I looked around, and there was a new concept in Ireland at the time called a post-Leaving Cert course, a PLC. And it was in 1991. And the PLC was a 1-year course that allowed you to explore different subjects before you went to college. So I chose IT. Now, I should have known. I was a sci-fi fan, I loved playing computer games, and I was a completely natural fit for that course. So I took the 1-year course. I started taking computers apart and putting them back together. I wrote some software, I played games. I went in there before the course started. I was the last guy to leave. And I excelled. I felt for the first time in my life that this was the path for me. So I went on into college in Dundalk, halfway between Dublin and Belfast. And in my local college, I finished a 2-year course. And then I had a choice. What do you do next? The line stops. What else do you want to do? So I chose a path that was somewhat unusual. I went to work in a local brewery. Yeah. So I had the opportunity to work in a brewery. It was only about 160 years old by the time I got there, and there were about 20 computers in the computing department. And I was the first IT technician to arrive in there. The brewery was owned by Guinness, and it was like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It was full of wonderful experiences, especially for a guy who was 19 or 20, entering this brewing environment. I was very well paid. I got shares, I got great training, and it was a wonderful social life in the brewery. It actually spoiled me for the first job that I ever had. But over time, over 6 or 7 or 8 years, I started to feel somewhat restricted in that corporate world. I'm quite a good problem solver and I'm quite innovative, but I felt the arms that were being wrapped around me by the corporate company was restricting me. And eventually I felt a little bit of discomfort to say, well, am I going to do this for the rest of my life or not? Thankfully, the decision was made for me. Guinness came in and closed the brewery. And that was back when they had the decency to come into a room and tell you you're redundant. Nowadays, they just send you an email. So I had a choice. I had two paths. I had one to go back working for Guinness in Dublin, or I could take the check and run. So I took the check. I decided to draw my own line. I set up my own web design company. I set up my own IT consultancy. And about 23 years later, I'm still working. I've got hundreds of clients. I work from home. I work in a beautiful village in Blackrock, and my beautiful wife is here tonight. And I have a good family life balance. It hasn't been perfect, it hasn't been easy, and there's been lots of uncertainty along the way. So I suppose the tip I'd like to give younger people in particular who are up and coming is that uncertainty will be part of your lives. You'll have to get used to it, but you'll have to draw your own line. Thank you very much.